This is the last section of the module 1 that will give you a generic overview of DCNM 11 before we cover deeper each functions of DCNM 11 in the next modules. So what are the key essential focus areas that DCNM 11 can help with? DCNM centralizes the management and monitoring for the classic LAN. DCNM can import existing data center network, or it can deploy a new legacy-based data center network from ground up using PYP, for example. The configuration of each classic Ethernet-based device can be achieved using existing DCNM policy templates to automate the deployment. And you will hear many times the term of policy templates. You will see this in details in a dedicated sections. But in the meantime, a policy template is a Python script embedded into DCNM used to automate a particular configuration. You don't have to be a Python expert, of course. DCNM can import an existing VXLAN EVPN fabric in production seamlessly with zero interruptions. Then DCNM can automate new networks and VRF, add a new device, and offer embedded daily operation tools. If you wish to build one or multiple VXLAN EVPN fabric from ground up and you don't have a huge experience, right? With just zero touch, right? DCNM can help you to automate its deployment based on the Cisco best practices in a few clicks. And finally, you can visualize in real time the health and utilization for network and compute components, network interfaces and links from one or multiple sites in a single pane of glass, even with a mix of different type of networks such as classic LAN, WAN, VXLAN, EVPN. And while you can monitor the fabric and automate network and VRF configuration, DCNM can generate alarms, run a backup and run a RMA for you, change management notification in case something has changed in one of the switch, upgrade your software image, and much more. In summary, any classic LAN can be operated with other type of network fabric, such as an external fabric for the WAN or a modern fabric built with VXLAN EVPN. DCNM continuously compares the current configuration of any classic Ethernet-based device with its database. So if something differs, it informs immediately the end user, who can push the known configuration, the valid initial configuration, to retrieve the original configuration for the end user intent. The end user can build his own policy template and push afterwards his intent to any device. You can automate and schedule a regular backup for one or multiple classic LAN and store multiple backup over a timeline and restore from the backup of choice the whole data center network, or just restore the configuration for a particular device. DCNM lets you to program an image software upgrade, including the patches. DCNM provides health visibility for the network components and for endpoint, physical host, virtual machines, container, OpenStack. And finally, DCNM is not limited to Nexus device, but it can manage and operate Catalyst devices, ISR series, basically iOS XE and iOS XR, or even non-Cisco network devices, some such as Arista devices. Now, in addition to all features supported previously, we mentioned with classic LAN and external fabric, DCNM has been designed above all to automate the VXLAN EVPN fabrics with zero touch, if this is your wish, right? Including advanced features such as policy-based routing or redirections, encryptions, TRM, MPLS handoff, segment routing handoff, etc. So, if your infrastructure requires interconnecting multiple sites, so classic or VXLAN-based site, DCNM embeds the policy templates to deploy a multi-site domain in few clicks, adding the required fabrics and afterward the layer 2 and layer 3 network extensions. For a single site or for multi-site, it takes just few clicks to create the networks and VRF and deploy them across all the devices and all the interfaces of interest. If needed, DCNM helps you to extend your on-premise data center networks to a public cloud. And for your information, this is going to evolve in the next release using the Nexus Dashboard Orchestrator. But worth to mention. If your application are multicast greedy, for example, maybe because your enterprise is financial institutions or is part of the media broadcast industry, you can optimize the multicast traffic, the multicast transport by leveraging the next generation multicast VPN address family using DCNM in few clicks. It's always in few clicks, right? So just check the TRM feature, turn on routing multicast, and DCNM will automate its deployment based, again, on the best practices. One more concern is about the service node insertion into the VXLAN EVPN fabric, how to add a firewall or a load balancer or virtual network functions in the VXLAN EVPN fabric, right? So DCNM embeds an application called Elastic Service Redirections, ESR, to automate in few clicks the insertion of the service node into your fabric. And finally, a data center fabric without any external layer 3 connectivity is useless, right? So DCNM embeds the tools and the policy to automate the deployment of VRF light handoff as well as MPLS handoff for LDP or for layer 3 VPN over segment routing. So everything is embedded with DCNM. It's just a few clicks, so you need to care about your fingers. To summarize what DCNM brings to you, it offers the tools to automate the deployment end-to-end of any type of fabrics in a few clicks, network and VRF across any fabrics. The data center LAN fabric becomes fully programmable, either using its DCNM graphical user interface, or you can use your preferred API management application against DCNM open RESTful APIs. For any reason, at any time, you can restore a golden configuration to one or multiple sites. You can insert firewall, load balancer devices seamlessly without any interruptions. And if you need to extend your network with either private or public cloud or an MPLS network that you are maybe not familiar with, feel free to leverage DCNM to automate the job for you based on Cisco best practices. When end-to-end provisioning is achieved, you can count on DCNM to monitor and notify in real time the health of the fabric, not only for the network components, but for the compute stack as well. You can search for any endpoint locations across multiple locations, for the historical, for the availability over the time, a lot of details. So you can trigger alarms and report based on your expected threshold values. You can integrate DCNM with third-party applications such as ServiceNow, Splunk, or Infoblox for the IP address management, for example. It verifies constantly that the active configuration of any known device is in sync with the end user intent. And it also it can be just, read-only, and it can be the framework to support flow streaming telemetry using, for example, Nexus Insight applications, right? So, or you can use it just for the image upgrade management, RMA with zero downtime, and so on, right? So, finally, the last point is different user profiles allow different actions with the AirPack support. So this is a snapshot of a topology view that combines multiple fabrics in one single pane of glass. Just to give you an example, with here we see classical LAN, we see the VXLAN EVPN fabric. We have here the multi-site, so as you can see, we can get a mix of classic LAN, VXLAN EVPN, multi-site. We have the external fabric for the layer 3 core, for example. We have an external fabric for the service node, and we have maybe the external fabric for the provider, network or internet provider, if you will, right? So very easy to get everything on the same single pane of glass. This slide depicts the combination of multiple stacks or building blocks in a single topology view that DCNM can integrate and visualize, such as the here is the network fabric stack, if you want. Here is the compute stack, and then you go to the virtual switches, and you can see all the virtual machines, and you can see the containers, the Kubernetes containers with the different pods. Right, so this is just an example. Now, in regard to the DCNM appliance, so this is a kind of high-level schema for the connectivity of the DCNM 11 appliance, right? So this is DCNM 11. We have the Ethernet E0, which is used to communicate with between the network management platform and DCNM, used to exchange HTTPS requests with the end user, including the REST APIs and the SSH. Ethernet 1 is used for out-of-band management to discover and import the switches, deploy configuration and monitor. It exchanges HTTPS, SNMP, SSH, and APIs requests with the switches. Right, and finally we have the Ethernet 2, which is used for in-band management to communicate with the route reflectors, the spine nodes actually. This is mainly used for endpoint locators and telemetry purposes, but not only, and also to import and discover switches in the external and LAN classic fabrics in brownfield deployment. The installation of DCNM 11 comes in 3 flavors. It can be a standalone machine, physical or virtual. It is recommended to deploy the DCNM 11 appliance in HA mode, right? High availability mode. This is recommended, not mandatory, but recommended. And for scalability purposes, you may need to add 3 additional compute nodes, right? So this is based on your topology. Now, in regard to the installation process, it happens in 2 major steps. First is to install the software image, like any applications. It can be installed on either an open virtual appliance, OVA, or an ISO virtual appliance on the either bare metal or KVM or Hyper-V. And then you run the installer utility for the settings of the DCNM appliance. So DCNM licensing, I just wanted to make a short review here. And again, this is available for DCNM 11 with the current version. This may change later on. So this Actually, this slide provides an overview again on the current model based on the infrastructure and the service required. So there are two models of licensing, as you know, subscription or perpetual for both Nexus 9K standalone NXOS or SEI. And we can consider three types of infrastructure. From the bottom, which is a single data center, or then you go to the multi-site with or without the cloud, and then you have a multi-site with or without the cloud, but with data operations. So in regard to the subscription model, DCNM essential for a single data center. That does not include data operations. Then we have the perpetual license model with DCN Essential for SEI, which includes the NXOS Essential 2 and the NXOS Essential for NXOS, right? And we have the subscription model for the multi-site with the cloud or without the cloud, which is required the DCNM advantage for SEI multi-site or and remote live and VPN. For the perpetual model, DCN advantage for ACI multi-site and remote live, which covers the NXOS Essential 2, and we have the NXOS advantage for NXOS and VPN fabric. Now, the subscription model for the multi-site with or without the cloud for data operations, then we have DCN Premier on top of DCN Advantage or data operation package for a single data center, right? And finally, we have the additional add-ons for the storage, security, NDP or ACI vPod. Now, the question is regarding DCNM. It is already included regardless of the DCN licensing listed above, right? So you can find more details in CCO. Let's have a quick overview of the DCNM user interface. When you open DCNM, you get this main page from where you can go directly to your operation of choice. Either you want to manage the licenses of the switches, or you need to configure a fabric, or you wish to deploy new networks, or you need to look at the DCNM documentation. This is a shortcut to go directly to these essential operations. On the top right, you get the traditional gears to change the user or the password, to get the version of DCNM, but also the API inspector to monitor all API calls that DCNM uses to deploy the configuration toward the fabric elements. We will cover this in the module 5. On the left, you have the sidebar that offers you several options. From the top, you can display the dashboard with different dashlets that you can arrange based on your wishes. Then you have the topology view. You can select different scopes, meaning you select your fabric of choice. And on the right side, you can check or uncheck the components you wish to display, such as the fax, the uplinks, or the computers. You can expand the view with the virtual switches, virtual machines, or containers. And one important tool in the topology view is a comprehensive search engine that you can use to retrieve in the topology any switch node or compute machines or the physical path taken by an overlay network. We will cover this in module 6 with the operational tools. Then you have the control tab that gives you access to different control elements such as the fabric, the interfaces, networks, or the services for the load balancer and firewall insertions. From there, you leverage the DCNM automation tools to deploy the configuration toward these components just mentioned. And we will cover this in module 2. Below, you provide the management access for the virtual machines, the containers, the OpenStack that you can visualize with DCNM. You can manage the policy template from there, and that will be covered in module 4. When you need to upgrade your switches, you can schedule automatic software image upgrade from these sections. And finally, you can localize all your endpoints across one or multiple fabrics get their status over a timeline, their history, when they moved across your fabric, when and from where to where. And this will be covered with Module 6. And here is the tab to monitor different components, inventory for the switches, interfaces, the licenses, the CPU, the LAN interfaces, and so on. Then you have access to the administrations of the DCNM appliance itself with its customization, the high availability rules, the user profiles, and this is covered just afterwards in this module number 1. Finally, you can install from Cisco Application Center different apps that work in conjunction with DCNM, such as Elasticsearch for the firewall and load balancer deployment, endpoint locators, programming reporting, and even the third-party applications such as EPAM for the IP address management. Let's have a quick look on the DCNM admin tab. DCNM server tab is used to start, restart, stop the DCNM services, to view the log information of the network preferences for DNS, NTP, network, Ethernet 1, 2, etc. You can check the status of the native HS, so failover. You can forward sync, test the high availability. You can configure the this is where you configure the connector for Intersite, and you can back up your DCNM server itself, right? Now, you can manage the licensing for DCNM as well as as for the switches of your fabric here, and you can view and assign the licensing. You can manage the users. We have airbag support. So if we go a bit deeper in the airbag very quickly, the management user menu includes different options to provide this access. So here with the remote AAA, every time you log into DCNM, the DCNM server fetches information from the ISC server for remote AAA. Different authentications exist, such as the local, the radius, TACAX, switch, and the LDAP, right? Now, you can select the local as well as the authentication mode. Different roles and access per roles can be created, and each role provides the right access for particular actions. And the access give you the fabric that the role can access. And for the role, a user with an access admin role can perform operation only in the interface manager windows. A user with a network operator role has access to the menu, most of the menu, such as the dashboard, topology, monitoring application, but not the configurations. A user with the network stager, for example, role can make a configuration changes on DCNM. However, you cannot push the configuration. So you need a network admin role afterward that sees what the network stager wants to do. We can check and run it afterwards, right? And I will show you this in a minute in a video. And a user with a device upgrade admin role can perform operations only for the image management. Let's look at a short demo. So the first thing is if you want to configure a remote AAA, so based on the authentication model you want to do, or you select the local user. Interesting to add a new user. So basically you give a name, you select the role, and here we select the stager. We give the password, and the user is created. Now we need to give access to the user, and we just allow the Fabric 2 for that user, right? So now what we want to do is to log with the new user profile. So let's do a stager 1 logging, right? And basically what it can do everything, but except that, as you can see, there is no fabric 1 because it's not authorized to access fabric 1. So let's go to the interface. In this example, select one of the interface used for the VPC peering actually. So, and enable this interface, right? So it can do the, it can enable the interface. You can see here the preview, right? However, it cannot deploy, right? The deploy button is gray, and this is expected, right? Because it's a stager, it's not a network admin guide. Now you can try to save and deploy, right? And you can see the 8 lines, right? But one more time, actually it's not able to press the deploy button. So let's now it's ready. Let's log through the network admin rule, and now we should see if we go to the fabric number 2. Here it is. We see that we have a blue color. Blue color means that the configuration is pending, right? We can see what kind of configuration is pending. This is enabling the port E147, right? And here now the network admin can deploy it, right? And it is deployed. So we just wait a few seconds. Now it's green because everything is configured. We just do a refresh to see now the link between the two devices, right? So as simple as that. Thank you. Performance. Well, yeah, you can add and remove performance collections. As I told you, DCNM allows you to monitor the network performance and interfaces. So it just you can add or remove. You can select the switch for which you want to collect the performance data, and you have the event manager. So same thing, you can configure the forwarding parameters for the selected event, such as SMTP, email address, port to use, blah, blah, blah. So then you select the switch concerned by the event notifications, right? So in short, we have seen that Cisco offers two main solutions that each responds to the enterprise expectations, right? If you remember, so one of the solutions relies on the standalone NXOS with DCNM as its network management platforms. DCNM is a management platform that centralizes the network operations to automate the deployment of classic LAN, VXLAN, VPN, fabrics, networks, VRF, service nodes, and just everything in a few clicks. And in addition, it offers embedded daily operations. So why DCNM? Because some customers want to leverage their experiences and proven methodologies to manage their infrastructure with a network-centric approach. Maybe they don't want to change, and that's the reason why we still have DCNM. And DCNM allows you to centralize and the automation and daily operation as well, right? So it depends what you want to do. So you know that if you want a VXLAN VPN refresh, there is a dedicated video for that purpose. Finally, before we go into the essential functions of deeper of DCNM, we have just seen a high-level overview of this solution. Now, let's go into the different modules and sections to better understand and visualize the added value of DCNM. Thank you for watching.